Hello, my name is Alice, and I'm going to tell you a strange story. I'm incredibly pretty, like really pretty. I know it sounds like bragging, but to be honest, it does, because I don't always feel beautiful, but enough people have told me that I am. So I have come to assume that is how most people see me. When I was a baby, my appearance drew a lot of attention. People would say to my mother, "Oh, you have such a lovely baby. Isn't it reasonable to enter her in competitions?" People love infants, but it continued when I was a toddler. When I was 3 years old, a modeling agent approached my mother in a restaurant and asked if she could sign me. My mother thought no 3 was too young, but the attention didn't fade away as I grew older, and she ultimately asked whether I would seek a career in modeling or acting. I was starting to feel very self-conscious at that point. People made so many comments about my appearance that I hadn't yet reached puberty and was already getting catcalled on the street. I like math and science, but no one seemed to notice that I was brilliant at them. Most people I spoke with assumed I'd be chasing the boys with stick in no time, or that I have no trouble finding a husband when I was only 13 years old. I launched a YouTube channel dedicated to robotics, which is one of my biggest passions, but people would leave comments like, "You're hot," or "You're not legal," which made me feel really uncomfortable. Yeah, and I started wearing baggy clothes to disguise my growing curves, and I wore my textbook across my chest. I started getting so nervous in the hallways at school about when the next unwelcome comment would arrive that I would spend my breaks between classes throwing up. I began arriving late for class in order to avoid having to stroll through the corridors. The other issue with being too attractive is that people dislike you. Other females believe you're arrogant, and guys just want you so they can brag about how they met you to their friends. People also don't think you're smart. Even though I was a good student, I was the brunt of a lot of dumb blondie jokes. My mother once told me that I was so attractive that I wouldn't need to worry about going to college because I'd be able to find a doctor or lawyer who would look after me. Between my self-consciousness and my peers' resentment, that stung more than anything else. I didn't have any close friends, and the way people didn't take my ambition seriously made me doubt my own capacity to pursue a career in robotics as I desired. So I decided that if the world was determined to regard me as nothing more than an object, then that's exactly what I would be. I got rid of my baggy garments and replaced them with low-cut tops. I started wearing lipstick and flirted with the males who paid attention to me, regardless of whether or not I knew they had girlfriends. I stopped trying in my classes. A couple of teachers noticed, but I blew them off when they tried to talk to me. I wasn't sure whether this made me happy, but I kept doing it. Perhaps I didn't stop for homecoming because I was tired of showing my true self to others. I wore the sexiest outfit I could find, and a chaperone informed me that I had broken the dress code and offered me a sweatshirt to hide behind. Everyone was staring at me, and I could see they were surprised for 2 reasons. 1, this does not look like me because it is not my style, and 2, I appear to be quite lovely. However, old feelings of self-consciousness reappeared. Then a man came up behind me and pinched my backside. That was the final straw for me. I couldn't handle it any longer and broke down in tears. People started staring at me. "What are you staring at?" Some of them snickering and muttering to each other. "Stop staring at me," I screamed at them. I couldn't help myself. I was so hurt, confused, and alone, and I left the dance and drove home, my hands shaking so badly that I was lucky I got home in one piece. I locked myself in my room and refused to come out. It's not like I could ever go back to school after the scene I made on Monday. I had to go to school as my father requested. I was so nervous that I threw up before school, but I had a meeting with the counselor who was really nice. I told her I couldn't. She suggested that together we could figure out how to help me feel more at ease being myself and get back on track with my schoolwork, and that it will be a long process. Things are gradually improving, and I have learned to better manage my nervousness and respond to statements that make me uncomfortable. I even joined a scientific club at school, and I'm making some new friends there. I still have a long way to go before I figure out how to be happy with myself, but things are starting to look good. Hello, my name is Isla, and here is my story. I, like everyone else, examine myself in the mirror numerous times a day. After all, don't we all prefer to see how we appear before going out? However, I will not discuss my personal appearance or my attire. So, let's turn our attention to insecurities. I believe we all have insecurities and characteristics about ourselves that we wish we could change. This whole nagging problem started years ago when I suddenly felt absolutely worthless. To be honest, it didn't happen overnight, but I made a lot of mistakes. Is there anything worse than feeling worthless? Is holding yourself responsible for everything that goes wrong in your life and the lives of others around you. First and foremost, I was a poor student at school. True, I didn't get E, but my grades were all C's and D's. So if you're not doing well in school, at least you're doing well elsewhere, right? That did not happen. I was such a shy and socially awkward youngster that I never initiated a conversation with anyone, and that anytime I made a comment, everyone ignored me. That's why I chose to keep my mouth shut at all times. Oh, and don't even get me started on my connection with my siblings and other family. My parents are wonderful, but I have always had the impression that they favor my older siblings than to me. They are understandable to me. My two older brothers are very accomplished. They have a large number of friends and are well liked by everyone in our neighborhood. The fact that I am from a small town adds to the severity of the problem in my opinion. I never understood why people call me Isla Shane. Shane may have a Shine origin or rhymes to Isla. I'm not sure who came up with this name, but whomever did isn't humorous, and I hope he or she is listening to my story now. Anyway, my life's failures didn't stop there. They became my reality and the definition of Isla. As a result, I detested looking in the mirror since it caused me to conjure up scenarios in my imagination about how and what other people thought of me. That was the end of me. I despised the way I looked, thought and acted, and wished to be smarter and more well-liked. Little did I know at that time that accomplishments don't just happen to you. You have to chase them down and battle for them. After watching a motivating video on YouTube that highlighted challenges and fears similar to mine, I took the next step. I realized that I wasn't alone in this. I still remember that wet day in late December when I looked into the mirror and said to myself, Isla, you are deserving of love and respect. After that moment, my life changed forever. I worked very hard to earn the life I wanted to have. I worked hard to become who I am now, and it all worked out brilliantly. I now work for a large corporation and I'm happily married. Everyone feels worthless and insignificant at times, but if you take action, you can move any mountain and overcome any hurdle. What are your thoughts on the story? Tell us about your success story or your future goals in the comment section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed the video. Hello, my name is Rachel, and this is a story of how I got my crush to fall in love with me. I never had a lover before, and the instant I saw him, I knew I would have to find a way to make him love me in any way I could. You see, Theo was a new kid at school. You know how it feels, right? Everyone was interested in learning more about him. Because his father was a famous footballer, all the lads wanted to be his buddies, and all the girls wanted to be his girlfriend because, well, he's cute. Okay, but it's just not that he's unique. There's something else about him as well. He's not as loud and unpleasant as the other boys. He's quiet and enjoys reading, and he just has a mystery air about him. It was the beginning of the school year, and I made a promise to myself that by the end of the year, we would be holding hands and eating lunch together on the playground seat known as the lover's bench. I kept my distance from the other girls who would stroll by him and flick their hair and bat their eyelids at him. I didn't add him as a friend on Instagram or Facebook, but I did stalk him. Every night after my mother said goodnight, I would scroll through his photos and trying to figure out who he was. His family was rich, and his father was the talk of the town, yet he seemed so normal, so down to earth. On weekends, when everyone else was at the mall, where was he? Was he at his father's football games? It didn't appear to be the case. I persuaded my mother to take me to the new modern art museum that had just opened after he posted a video from there. I knew my friends wouldn't be interested, so I urged my mother to take me. I told her it was for the research for a project, which isn't technically a lie, but I couldn't tell her it was just so I could seduce Theo. I took a number of photos of the displays and even a selfie at the museum's entrance. I published them online with the same hashtag he used in the hopes that he would see them. Okay, so he was a fan of the arts. What else was he fond of? I could never get close enough to see what he was reading because he constantly had his nose in the book. I went to the school library after school one day and asked for the librarian if she could tell me what he liked to read. She directed me to the classics. He was just making his way through Shakespeare's works, she claimed, and had recently finished Romeo and Juliet. I borrowed a copy and carried it around with me the next day at school in our literature lesson, where I had always been quite quiet. I began to raise my hand more frequently. I swear he smiled at me after that lesson, indicating that he enjoyed literature and art. He was so brilliant, it made me laugh to think of all the other girls wearing football tops in an attempt to win him over. He was nothing like his father. After spending a week researching modern art and nearly finishing Romeo and Juliet, I thought it was a time to approach him. I felt like my heart was going to explode out of my chest as he sat under a tree reading. I asked if I may sit next to him, and he responded, "Yes, yes." Then I pulled out my copy of Romeo and Juliet. He told me it was his all-time favorite, and then he offered me one of his chips. It was going great, and I introduced myself, and after a few days, we were chatting continuously. We always met under the same tree, and one day he asked whether I wanted to go to the theater with him since his sister was in it and he thought I would enjoy it. I almost hugged him right there on the spot, and I went away with a big grin on my face despite the other girls' annoyance. They couldn't believe he was interested in someone like me, for example. We went to the theater together and it was fantastic. I think he realized that I'm new to this whole Shakespeare and art exhibitions thing, but hey, it worked. And he likes me for who I am. He laughs at my goofy jokes and doesn't mind if I can't pronounce some of the terms in his books. And isn't that, after all, what it's all about? Finding someone who appreciates you for who you truly are may be difficult. Maybe I should have had the confidence to speak to him right away. I didn't need to pretend to be someone I wasn't. But I admit, learning about art was a lot of fun. It's fun to try new hobbies and interests now and then. And hey, now I have a lover. What do you think of this story? Please leave your thoughts and stories in the comments area below.